What is sustainable is making lifestyle choices. That's where I think a cash flow plan is better able to accommodate your lifestyle changes.
This is Wealth Smarts, where you will gain the financial capabilities and confidence to achieve the goals that matter to you. Now, here are your hosts, Matt and Richard.
The third question of our Wealth Builder scorecard is, do you have short and long-term cash flow projections that you can understand? Now, why is cash flow so important? Cash flow is the lifeblood to your financial future and your financial goals. Quite simply.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Without cash flow purposefully dedicated towards your goals, there's just no financial way of achieving them, other than like maybe the lottery or something like that. But
you could try living your life on barter, but see
true.
how well that goes in the long run.
So this is the big question. Do you have short and long-term cash flow projections that you can understand? On our scorecard, the first answer is, I have no idea of my current or future cash flow. Richard?
And some people might be blissfully unaware of that, and they're okay with that. And as long as you have cash flow coming in from a job or from benefits or whatever, and everything is fine, that's great. But there's going to come a time where you may not be able to work anymore, or you decide not to work, or it's retirement time, and the cash flow comes to an end. Okay. You got to be aware of your cash flow right now. And that's really scary. The first thing that people think about is a budget, and that's even scarier. But I think the key thing that we have to do is we have to become aware of what's coming in and what's going out and what that looks like.
Mm-hmm.
And it's nowadays, with virtually all of our finances being done, all of our spending and income being done electronically, comes into our bank account. And there's credit cards that we use to pay for everything. All we need to do is we need to download our bank and credit card statements, and we'll see clearly in a spreadsheet what that looks like. And you and I were Excel geeks, and we're able to take that and quickly quantify how much we're spending in different areas. But for some people, it might be a challenge. Okay. So whatever tool you use, you need to take a best stab effort at understanding what's coming in, what's going out.
Mm-hmm. Now, the second response to this question is, I'm making some progress, but I wish I had better understanding of both my current and long-term cash flow. So this is really coming from a position of not knowing where the pieces fit in, not knowing, but you still think it's important. Yeah. You still want to move forward. You still want to make progress. And often, it's a daunting task. And we often automatically jump to that word budget. And, I need to be on budget. I need to stick to my budget. We know that the majority of people cannot work with a budget, in the sense of it's impossible to be that restrictive to things. So we like the term using cash flow because you know what's going in, you know what's coming out, you know what you're spending, but at the same time, there's some flexibility in there. Richard, how do you feel about that?
Yeah, I like the idea of, Bob Dylan said it best, you got to pay somebody.
Yeah.
Right. And, you've got your paycheck coming in, and even off the paycheck, you got to pay somebody. There's taxes that come off. You got to pay those to the government. And there's costs of benefits that come off. And that has to go to, the benefits company and different things like that's your pension contribution. It has to go towards your pension. And that's a good thing. But then we start paying everybody else. The mortgage has to be paid, and hydro has to be paid, and gas, and all the other utilities we have, taxes, property taxes, everything. But we're forgetting to pay one key entity, and that's us. Okay. I think budgets are important, but they don't necessarily lead us to take the action that we need to take, and that is direct the first part of who you need to pay to yourself, be it your RRSP, your tax-free savings account, non-registered savings that you're putting aside for the long term. So,
yeah. The thing about this stage is I know what the impact of a budget is. So you mentioned budget to anyone and everyone tenses up.
Yeah.
We were recording this at the time of the 2024 federal budget just being released, and uh, let's not go there. But at the same time, I'm going to liken a budget to, let's use the example of a diet,
Yep.
right? Both feel very restrictive. Both are not necessarily sustainable. What is sustainable is making lifestyle choices and lifestyle changes. And that's where I think a cash flow plan is a better able to accommodate your lifestyle changes,
Yep.
right? You have rules that you follow. So, for example, Richard mentioned pay yourself first. That is one of the top rules when it comes to saving for anything. Even like, let's just say, well, I want to buy a new TV, but I don't have the money for it. Okay, this is where I think the first step is actually to start saving X amount of your paycheck every month towards that. After, of course, the money that you're setting aside for your future. We need to remember that saving is a habit that needs to be developed.
Yep.
And why not make that habit easy to develop by automating it, making it easy on yourself? We just know that, hey, if you set something up and it's automatic, you're actually going to be on track for most cases.
Yeah.
So just to help people out with this section of understanding their cash flow, we do have a cash flow spreadsheet and calculator on our website. We also have a video of Richard walking through how to fill out this spreadsheet for yourself. So in our resource pages, links on the show notes, we will include that link.
Yeah, on our resource page, it's, the title says you'll need a few important tools to prepare for your complete financial picture. Bunch of resources below, but the one Matt's alluding to is a video with the title Get a Grip on Your Cash Flow. And right below that video is a button where you just click to download your cash flow spreadsheet. And there's step-by-step instructions on just how to fill it out. It's pretty straightforward. And the wonderful thing about these spreadsheets is, like Zine and I have done these over the years. Whenever, we've run into financial roadblocks. Who hasn't, right? And what we've done is taken a look at where the money is going. And sometimes the results of what we see surprise us. And we can take a look at this and say, we're spending how much on our cell phone package? Are you kidding me? And then it has us going down that path and saying, how can we make this a better experience, a more affordable experience? And then we're taking a look at, we're spending how much on groceries? Well, maybe we don't always need to get that fancy roast or that fancy cut of steak, right? Maybe we can tone down our tastes a little bit. And we're spending, now that's actually not the culprit is the home cooking. The big culprit is the dining out. We can take a look at the dining out and say, okay, if we put in a systematic change into how we're running our month, part of that change can be we are becoming chefs. We are becoming home chefs. So as a hobby that we take up, we can get into gourmet cooking and cook these fantastic meals at home, invite our friends and family over and have a grand old time. And we are taking on the identity of home chefs. Look at the money that we're going to save compared to going out. So it all began by doing a deep dive into our cash flow and understanding it.
And just to add to that, like this cash flow exercise is really an exercise in awareness, because in order to change anything for the long term, you need to be aware of where your money is going. So this really helps guide you in an understanding of where the money is going. And then you can make changes and stick to those changes. So this is, if you feel intimidated by this, take a look at that resource page, take a look at your cash flow, and you know what? Just start, because you'll make progress slowly and as you build your awareness, and that's actually very powerful. So the third answer to the question of your cash flow, I have a good idea of both my income and expenses and have a good idea of what it looks like in the long term.
Well, now that you've nailed your cash flow in the short term or behaviors around your cash flow, or at the very least have an awareness of your cash flow right now, you're actually ideally positioned to understand what your cash flow looks like in the long term, because now you're establishing systems in place to put money aside for you on a regular basis. And now we can project what that looks like when we combine your government pensions, your company pension plans, the investments that you're accumulating very successfully, and we can see how that's translating into income for the rest of your life and whether you're able to sustain that for the rest of your life. So, but the first thing they have to do is awareness of what's happening right now. Now you can go into awareness of what can happen in the future.
And the final answer to this question, I have a detailed after-tax projection of cash flow and know what the probability of reaching my goal is. So this adds in that whole feature of probability to reach your goals. We know that your cash flow is the lifeblood of your financial future. So it is important to know how that will be, number one, fueling your goals in the first place. But number two, when you start taking it out, if that's sustainable or not. Could your cash flow outlive or survive the market volatility? Could your cash flow survive? What happens if you live longer? What happens if inflation is higher? What happens if there's a dip in the market when you retire, right? So now this point is all about improving and understanding your probability of success.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, I love this approach to disaster planning, okay? Because in our planning software, we're able to say, what if this happens? What if this happens? What if this? And you know what? We can be there all day long creating scenarios of what if certain things happen. But I like the easy button. And the easy button is called a Monte Carlo simulation. And just like you can just imagine, Monte Carlo relates to gambling. I'm not saying you should be gambling with your money, but what I am saying is you have to take a look at all of the different possibilities that could happen over time. What a Monte Carlo simulation does is it takes a look at your current financial plan and at an assumed rate of return of, let's just say 5.5% compounded, we're saying you should be okay. With just a small margin of safety. But I don't like that because life is unpredictable. So I'd rather put it through a Monte Carlo simulation and ask, what if all of these bad things happen? And the Monte Carlo basically goes through 1,000 different permutations, 1,000 different possibilities of what could happen. And it tells you, hey, you've got a 5% chance that you're going to knock the lights out, like you're going to do really well. You've got a 5% chance that you could blow up. Okay. And there's a 90% chance kind of in between saying this is your expected range and you should be okay. Well, I don't like that part that says you got a 5% chance you could blow up financially. So what do we need to do to make sure that we eliminate that 5% chance of blowing up financially, right? So
well said.
it comes down to, Matt, you got it straight off is do we know the probability of achieving all of our goals? And I'd say in most cases, people don't. But if you're interested in finding out, I would encourage you to, start off by taking your Wealth Builder Scorecard, but it might lead to a conversation where we could help you understand exactly what your probability of achieving all of your goals actually is.
That's so exciting. I always love going through those Monte Carlos with clients. It's quite an experience. But I would say, yes, I would encourage people to take the Wealth Builder Scorecard, but also if you're struggling with your cash flow, check out our resource page and check out that video and that cash flow spreadsheet. Remember, you got to start from somewhere. And the first step to understanding your cash flow is just that awareness of what's coming in, where is it going? And then after that, we can make improvements.
Perfect. Thanks, Matt.
Thank you for listening to today's episode of Wealth Smarts. Wealth Smarts is a joint production between WealthSmart Incorporated and Lions Den Media. Be sure to check the show notes on our website for more information and resources. If you enjoyed this episode or found it valuable, consider joining the Wealth Smarts community by subscribing and leaving us a review. Your support helps us make more valuable content and reach more listeners like you. See you in 2 weeks.